So thank you everybody for joining. This is our Winter 22 platform release live tech demo. So we've been bringing a series of webinars. We did a webinar on December 6th where we actually had the launch of the winter release. And then yesterday we had a webinar talking a little bit about the business model and how we propose the RPA journey to be implemented. And today we bring you the winter platform release tech demo. Yeah, so this will be a live demo that we will show you the platform working in action. Okay. So the agenda for today, just a quick intro here, and then we'll do the live tech demo itself and the Q&A. Okay. Your speakers today, myself as host, Tiago Carlucci. I'm a global campaign marketing, and we have our guest speaker, Aaron McCullough, who is our sales engineer and will conduct the demonstration today. Okay. So without further ado, I hand over to Aaron.
All right. So perfect. Yeah. So today I'll be providing kind of an overview of the entire ElectroNeek platform. So our platform consists of the three main hubs. So we have our automation hub, which includes the tools to build, deploy, and run your automation projects. We also have our service hub. So that includes support-related features such as our support and help center, as well as our community forum. And our business hub. So that includes assets to help boost your RPA business. So as I'm showing here right now, this is the My ElectroNeek home portal. So this is where you'd be able to access all the individual modules of our platform. We also have, everything is organized in the individual hubs. So as you can see here on the left-hand side menu, we have everything organized under the different hubs. This is also where you'd be able to have links to download the various applications. So this includes our Studio Pro, as well as the Bot Runner application. As well, this is where all your account information is going to be located down at through the bottom navigation menu. So this is where you'd be able to view your account information. This is where you'd be able to create new users, set access levels, permissions, roles, and more. So moving forward, we're going to go a little more in depth into some of the parts of our automation hub first. So as I said, our automation hub consists of the Studio Pro, which is our low-code development environment. We have our Bot Runner application, which is the application that's required to run any of the ElectroNeek bots. And then we have access to the Orchestrator, which is our cloud-based management tool. So part of the automation hub will go a little more in depth next into the Studio Pro application itself. So as you can see here, this is our Studio Pro application. So this, as I mentioned, this is the low-code development environment. So this is where you'll be able to create, test, and manage the different workflow bots. In the middle, we have our canvas. So this is where you'd be able to drag and drop some of the activities from the left-hand side menu over to start building your bot. So as a quick sample, I'll just kind of include this here, connect it to the start, and there you have it. So it's very simple to, click and drag to continue building your bot. Now, on the left-hand side menu, as I mentioned before, this is where we have the various activities. So these are different activities related to different functionalities that you'll be using to build a workflow bot. I'll go over at a high level most of these, and then we can kind of get it. That way you have a good idea as to what's available. So under the general group here, we have a number of subgroups. So under logic, so this is where you'll have different activities related to creating if-then statements, do-while loops, assigning values to variables, as well as opening any kind of desktop applications. Under human in the loop, so this is where we have different activities related to gathering information from users. So inputting information from a user, it's displaying information as a notification, as well as allowing them to select files or folders. Under block input, so this is where we have activities to block various inputs and then unblock inputs depending on the application. Under GUI or GUI automation, so this is where we have activities. These will be related to the working with desktop applications. So that includes interacting via the mouse, as well as the keyboard, as well as interacting or getting information from the user interface, and as well as setting information. We have activities that are related to working with the app windows. So that includes maximizing, minimizing, as well as closing. Under machine vision, so these would be different activities related to working with or identifying images, as well as taking screenshots from the desktop applications themselves. Under OS automation, so these are activities related to working with a system or operating system. So this includes working with files and folders, using and getting credentials that have been configured. So this is related to, say, for example, adding login information. We have activities related to working with the clipboard, as well as different system activities. So opening a command prompt, killing a process or finding processes, as well as shutting down a computer. Now, under Microsoft Office, we have a number of activities specific to working with different Office applications. So that includes working with Word, Excel, Outlook, and Office 365. Under web automation, so these would be activities, of course, working with different web browsers and websites. So you'd be able to open a URL, close a browser, as well as scraping structured data. We also have activities related to interacting via the mouse on a browser or a web page, as well as working and inputting information to the browser. Under UI, so these would be activities related to working, getting and setting different element properties as well as values. Under Citrix and RDP group, so these would be activities related to working with terminals or remote desktop applications. So that includes different surface automation activities, as well as activities specific to working with the terminal themselves. Under programming, so we have a number of different activities related to different programming activities. So this includes executing JavaScript code as well as Python. This includes working with string data, as well as different activities where we're working with date and time. We also have the ability to make API calls directly from a workflow. So you'll be able to do that through the HTTP request activity, as well as connecting to various databases and then executing queries on those databases. Under email, so these are specific activities related to working with emails. So this includes support for Outlook, as well as Office 365, but we do have other email activities related to working with other email providers, such as Gmail. Under spreadsheets, so again, these are specific activities related to spreadsheet activities. So this includes working with different tables, as well as working with Google Sheets themselves. Now, document processing, so these would be specific activities related to processing documents. So that includes working with OCR engines. So we support Microsoft Cloud, Google Cloud, as well as Abbey Cloud OCR, as well as the ability to create recognition templates. Under data extraction, so these are other OCR activities specific to certain, depending on the use case, to be able to utilize these. Now under PDF, so these would be specific activities, of course, working with PDFs. So this includes reading text, converting it to an image, which is especially important if you're going to run it PDF through an OCR engine. It needs to be first converted to an image, so that would be useful there. As well as you can combine different files, so multiple Word documents into a PDF file, so you'd be able to automate those tasks as well. And lastly, under connectors, so this would be specific related to Google Drive, so working with Google Drive. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the activities that we have available of Studio Pro. Now, if we go to the Elements tab, so this is where you'll be able to see and create different elements that were related to either the desktop or the browser, as well as terminal elements here. So these would be related to where were used by different activities to interact with on the different systems. Under the project, so this is just a file list of menu of the specific project. Now, if we switch over to the right-hand side of the Studio Pro here, we have our properties as well as our variables tabs. So under the properties tab, so this is where you'll be able to configure the individual activities here. So for example, for the read Excel file activity, the requirement is that I need to send a path to that particular Excel file. One other great aspect of this is that we have under the Learn More on Knowledge Base. So this is going to be a link that goes directly to our knowledge base for the particular activity that you're working with. So if you're not sure on how to set something up or have any questions or need more information, you'd be able to click this link and go directly to the document without having to navigate through different menus. Now, under the variables tab, this is where you see all the various variables. So for example, with the read Excel file activity here, automatically we have created an Excel content variable. So once the Excel file is read, that information is then going to be posted into the Excel content variable. Now, if you look at the bottom here where we have the console, so this is where any logging information will be displayed, including error logs, as well any debug logging that you may have set up will be displayed down here as well during the execution of the bot. Now, if we go up to the top menu here, under the file menu, there's the usual kind of file menu items, but the important ones here that I want to highlight is the export to Neeks activity. So this way you'll be able to export your workflow to a Neeks file, which then can be run independently or outside of Studio Pro, as long as you have the bot runner installed in the environment. Below this, we have the publish to orchestrator. So this is where you'll be able to publish to a connected orchestrator and then be able to manage it through the orchestrator itself. So if we go under settings, so this is where we have various settings that can be configured. So this includes adding different credentials. So this is where you'd be able to add different login and passwords for that will be able to be used by different activities. So for example, I have information to my Gmail account. Now all the credentials aren't saved in Studio Pro itself. They are saved as part of the Windows Credential Manager. So that way that information is never saved in the bot or the Studio Pro or the bot runner itself. So that is much better for security reasons. Under services, so this is where we have different services that you can connect to. So for example, Google, Microsoft, as well as Abby OCR, you'd be able to set those up through here. Now we do also support a number of different browsers. So this is where you'd be able to set the default browser that would be opened in the open URL activity. So we have a support for Chrome, Edge, as well as Internet Explorer. Now skipping down to the interface, so this is where you'll be able to choose different information or that's viewed on the interface. So you can choose different languages, as well as choose a different theme, so a light or dark theme. So that concludes the overview of the Studio Pro application. Next, I want to show just a quick bot runner or bot sample that will kind of give you a better idea of a bot that's going to be run. So go ahead and minimize this. And then I'll bring up just a sample project here. So this sample project is going to use some of the Microsoft Cloud OCR. So it's essentially going to read an image document that has invoice information, parse that information or put it into a variable. Then we're going to parse that information into string data. Excuse me. Once we have that string data, we're going to use the extract text to then extract some information from that string data, and then save it to some variables, extract some other information, and then at the end, we're going to display all this information in a user notification. So I'm going to go ahead and run this bot through the play button at the top here, and we should be able to see the results. So now when a bot is run, you can tell we have a kind of a status window down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So this gives you indication of which step you're at. And then if we go, we now have the user notification that's available, and it has pulled in that information from the invoice and then displayed there. So that's just a quick kind of sample showing you kind of a quick bot. So from here, it's going to transition over to a little bit more information into the bot runner itself. So the bot runner, as I mentioned before, this is the application that is required to run an ElectroNeek bot. So this application should be installed in the client environment. So it can be either on a physical machine or it can be a virtual machine. You also have the opportunity or ability to connect it to the orchestrator. So this way you'd be able to manage the bot runner from the orchestrator instance itself. From the setup here, we can choose a different name. So by default, it will give the computer name, but you can give it a more unique name depending on where it's installed in the client environment. Now, similar to how Studio Pro set up, you can set up credentials and services as well. So these would be specific to the client environment that it is being installed. And again, these credentials are saved as part of the Windows Credential Manager. So again, same idea as Studio Pro, you'd be able to set up and connect different services to the bot runner. which will then be used by the workflow bots themselves. As well, you have the option to choose the different browsers to use by default. And as well, you can change the language of the particular bot runner, as well as the theme. So that's kind of a high overview of the bot runner itself. So the next kind of module as part of our automation hub is going to be our orchestrator. So our orchestrator, to access that, it is from the My ElectroNeek home portal. So we'll go ahead and open that up and then access it through either the link on the main page, or we can access it through the side menu as well. All right, so when you first access the orchestrator, the dashboard itself will be displayed. So this gives you kind of a high-level overview of the orchestrator itself, what's happening, what bot runners, the different activities, launches, as well as workflows that have been there. So it gives you kind of an indication as what's happening in this particular instance. Now, if you look at the top left-hand corner here, this is where you'll be able to navigate between different orchestrator instances. So you'll be able to manage that through the menu here. Now, next we'll go into the workflows tab here. So in the workflows tab, this is where you'll be able to see the different bots that have been published to the orchestrator from a Studio Pro instance. So this gives you kind of a list and a high-level overview of the different bots. If we go ahead and click into one of the different bots, we're given a little more information, as well as you'll be able to do some more configuration for that particular bot. So this includes the name and as well as description. It'll give you an indication of which orchestrator it's been deployed to, as well as how many bot runners it's been assigned to. So you can assign one workflow to multiple bot runners. We do have the opportunity to view the different schedules and launch time. So you can set up multiple schedules that a workflow bot can run by. As well, we have our status indicator. So this gives you a high-level review or indicator of what's happening with this particular bot. We also have the ability to send email alerts on failure. So here we'll be able to include multiple email addresses or users to be notified in case something goes wrong during the running of the particular workflow. Under that, we have the ability to configure a webhook link. So via the webhook link, you'll be able to execute a workflow bot through an HTTP request. So there is that ability as well. Now under this, we have the ability to also configure the collection of different logs. So this includes the execution logs, as well as any console logs that may have been set up. Now under that, we have the ability to select a bot runner that has been assigned to this workflow, and then run it through the interface here directly via the Run Now button. At the bottom here, we have the run history. So this is where you'll be able to display the history of all the different executions. As well, through here, you'll be able to access the various logs that were collected during the running of the bot itself. So that's through the action menu here, and the kind of the green icon. So if you go ahead and click that, we're taken to where we have access to the logs. So there was no console logs for this particular activity, but there were the execution logs here, which can then be as well saved directly to a file. Now, if we go back, and then we're going to look under the assigned bot runners. So here's where we'll be able to see the various bot runners that have been assigned to this particular workflow bot. It also gives you the opportunity to configure a bot runner. So through the Configure Bot Runners button here, we'll be able to select different ones from the interface or the drop down here, and then allow it to be connected through there. Now under the schedule, so this is where you'd be able to see and set up different schedules that have been set for this particular workflow bot. To set up a new schedule, simple enough to just click the schedule button here. Now we have the option to be repeatable or a one-time run. As well, we do support different date time options here. Now we also have the ability to set up restrictions. So let's say, for example, you want the bot to run Monday to Friday, and you don't want it to run Saturday or Sunday. You'd be able to exclude different days through here. So you'd be able to select Sunday as well as Saturday, and then exclude those days from the running of the bot itself. So that's a whole review of what's in the Workflows tab of our orchestrator. Next, let's take a little bit closer look at the Bot Runners tab. So the bot runners tab, this is of course where you'd be able to see the various bot runners that have been connected to this orchestrator instance. So to connect a bot runner to the orchestrator, it's done through a token system. So if we go to the tokens tab here, we'll be able to see various tokens that have been configured already, as well as ability to generate a new access token. So if we click the generate access token button, we'll need to give it a token name. So this will be a unique name to identify it in the orchestrator itself. And then once you've given it a name, once you click generate, and then you take that token and then include that into the bot runner instance itself. And then once that bot runner is then connected via the token, it will then be displayed under the not approved list shown here. So this gives you the option to validate and make sure that, yes, I want this bot runner to be installed or included in this orchestrator instance. And then once it's approved, it'll of course then be displayed down below in the approved list here. This also gives you the opportunity to remove a bot runner. So if it's no longer being used, then you'd be able to remove that bot runner from this particular orchestrator instance. So that's kind of that's a whole high-level overview of what's included in the bot runner section or tab of our orchestrator. If we then go to the integrations tab here. So this is where you'd be able to see different information that we have for different integrations. So this includes running or integrating with Zapier. So you'd be able to generate a token as well as get information to integrate your ElectroNeek bots with a Zapier. So benefits of this is that it does allow you to connect to more than 1,000 different app connectors. So say, for example, you want your bot to work with Slack, then you'd be able to use Zapier to kind of connect everything together. Now we do also have our own API. So this API is specific to the orchestrator. So this is where you'd be able to, instead of going through the workflows tab or the bot runners tab to manage the various workflows and launches, then you'd be able to do this through an API. So we have calls that are related to working with or getting a list of bot runners, as well as with the workflows themselves, as well as making calls to execute different workflow bots. Next, if we go to the settings menu, this is where you'd be able to change the name of the particular orchestrator instance, as well under multi-tenancy. So this is where you'd be able to connect, gain access, as well as give access to different teams and other orchestrator instances through this tab here. So that brings kind of the close to the overview of the orchestrator, as well as the entire kind of automation hub. So next, we're going to take a look at some of the features of our service hub. So our service hub is designed to help our clients quickly come on board, as well as get all the help and services they might need to be successful. So this includes our support center, our community forum, as well as our help center. So we'll take a little bit closer look at our support center. So our support center is where you'd be able to create and monitor tickets for incidents, help, and as well as feature requests. To create a new ticket, it's simple enough to just create a ticket button at the top here. And then you need to add in some of the required information. So this includes what type of ticket this is, as well as what product it's for. Then you'll give it a subject as well as a description of the issue. We also have the ability to attach a file. So if it's important to the resolution of the issue or to display, say, screenshot or something like that, you'd be able to attach those to here as well. So in addition to kind of just the incidents, help, as well as feature requests, you do have the ability to request development support. So development support's a little bit different than just a standard support issue. Where development support comes in is this: let's say you're working on a project and you've hit some challenges that you're not sure how to overcome. In those cases, you'd be able to request development support, and then our development support team will be able to provide more technical assistance to kind of overcome those challenges for you. Now we also you'll be able to request help for enterprise bids through our support center. So let's say, for example, you're working on an enterprise bid, you could submit that information to us and we'll be able to review it and provide feedback and support on it. And lastly, so let's say you or your client has some specific security related questions. Again, you'd be able to submit those through our support center and get those feedback and information on those questions as well. So that's the overview of our support center. Next, we'll take a little bit closer look at our help center. So our help center is our extensive knowledge base. So as I alluded to a little bit in the Studio Pro overview, you do have access to, this is where we have all our documentation. It's related to the different hubs. So we have information from our business hub, all the different documentation for our automation hub, which includes how to use Studio Pro, how to use the bot runner, as well as the orchestrator, and as well, all the different activities that we had gone over in the Studio Pro do have their own documentation available through here. You'll also be able to get access to the support center as well as our community forum. As well, we have information on our API documentation, release notes, and more available here. Next, kind of the last module of our service hub would be our community forum. So our community forum is a great place to interact with the entire ElectroNeek community. Here you'd be able to create new topics as well as search for existing topics. Now this, instead of, now our forums are actively monitored by our team. So instead of relying on the community to provide answers, we would be able to provide support and answers typically within about a day time frame through our forum. So that wraps up the different modules of our service hub. So next, let's take a look at some of the modules that are part of our business hub. So as I mentioned before, our business hub is where we have different assets to help boost your RPA business. So this includes where you'd be able to reserve a spot in one of our boot camps, where you'd be able to request new licenses for reselling to your clients, as well as access to our campus and wiki. So we'll go a little more in depth in some of these items. So under boot camps, so this is where you'd be able to reserve a seat for one of our quarterly calls. So this includes our executive boot camp, which is a 90-minute group training session that covers the latest trends and topics in the automation market. We also have our go-to-market strategy sync. So this is a 2.5-hour deep dive with our automation experts focused around sales and marketing. And lastly, we have our platform roadmap call. So this is a 2.5-hour call that is focused on the future roadmap and product features. Now, with each of these calls, you do have the opportunity to submit questions before they happen. So once you submit the questions, then our team will be able to go over them during these sessions. Now, under the reselling tab, so this is where you'd be able to request different licenses for Studio Pro as well as Orchestrator. And as well, you can provide or request a trial license to give to your clients as well for Studio Pro and Orchestrator as well through this interface. Now our campus is newly revamped. There we go. Newly revamped. So this is where you'd be able to see view courses and certifications, not only on how to use the products, but also courses on the business side tailored to the RPA industry. So we have a number of different journeys tailored to marketing, sales, and different executive journeys. And the last kind of module of our business hub here is our wiki. So these will be different blueprints and templates that centered around the marketing, sales, and as well as executive journeys. So this is where you'd be able to get all the different templates and documents related to the help to kind of boost your RPA business. So that brings kind of our platform overview to a close. I've gone over kind of our 3 main hubs and some of the different modules that are included in there. So from here, I'll hand things back over to Tiago, and we'll be able to answer some of the questions that you may have.
All right, awesome. So I have a question here. We got a question here, Aaron. Maybe you can help us with this one. I want to ask, how could we assign a variable in Studio? And is there any option to pass the arguments between different workflows?
For sure. So different workflows that might be, so the variables themselves to create one is that we do have our own can probably, or there is an activity to assign value to a variable. So you'd be able to use that to set a variable. So the variables themselves are global for a workflow, but to be able to assign between different workflows, that is a little bit trickier. You would be able to potentially, there's a notion of a sub-program. So that's kind of like a sub workflow. So you'd be able to kind of potentially use that as well to kind of to share the different information and variables. So hopefully that that answers the question.
Okay, then we have a second one here. I don't know if we can answer this one, but let's try. It's is Google or Microsoft OCR free or paid?
The answer to that is yes. So as part of Studio Pro, you do get access to, we do have built-in access to Microsoft OCR as well as the Google Cloud OCR, but it's only through Studio Pro. So that's to kind of help you kind of increase your development without requiring an account right away. But of course, once you go to production, then you're going to need to have that, that account set up to be able to run those OCR activities.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So we, let me share my screen here again, just so we go into the presentation mode one more time. I want to put this QR code up here for everyone to scan this. Take a second and scan this. This is going to give you guys the opportunity to book a demo today directly with our account executives, so that you go a little bit more in depth into what the platform is, what the business model is, and eventually our different packages. Yeah, we have bronze, silver, and gold packages with different levels of access to the platform. So please scan that, book a meeting today, make sure that we are able to speak with you and give you all of the insights into what we have. Okay. I don't see any additional questions in the Q&A neither in the chat. So we will call it. We will call it here, and we'll give you guys a bit some time back in your day. And I thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Aaron, so much for coming out and presenting the platform to us. We will send you guys the recording for those that joined. Also, those that registered and didn't join will also receive the recording. So we will send that out. And I thank you, and have a good afternoon. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.